Hi, Katzcradul here. It's summertime and I should learn to expect the unexpected. I had just finished cleaning my countertops really good for about the first time in 2 weeks. I got out this little bleach solution and had wiped the counters down and then sprayed all the grout with the bleach solution and totally cleaned the counters, moved everything, even washed out the compost bucket, set a pretty flower by the sink. Everything was nice and clean. And in walked Prepper A with a gift from the neighbors. A big old bag of peaches. This is about half of them. So much for the clean kitchen. And because the peaches were almost too ripe, I set out immediately to preserve them. So here I have a boiling water bath with my jars sterilizing. And I'm going to get out all the rest of my equipment and I am going to can these peaches. I have learned that when we say our prayers at night before we go to bed as a family and pray for God to bless our efforts, that when our prayers are answered and somebody sends us free food, we don't say not now or oh, this isn't what I meant. We accept that and we move on and we take care of it. These peaches, some of them have little spots that I'll cut off, some of them are perfect, but I'm going to preserve them because I see it as a gift and a blessing. Here I have the peaches blanching for 1 minute in boiling water. I have this neat little pasta pot that allows me to drain them and then plunge them immediately into cool water to stop the cooking. These peaches are so ripe and so delicate that I'm not going to leave them in that water for about more than a minute before I put them in the ice water. And you can see how easily, once I've cooled them off, the skin just peels off, just slides right off. And the peach is very slick and slippery. And there's a little groove in a peach that goes all around, and I try to follow that with my knife and then pry it open slightly with my knife. These are cling-free peaches, meaning the stone will pull free from the flesh, so they're a little easier to deal with. I do have lots of spots I'm going to have to cut away, but that's okay. If I get anything out of it, I'll be happy. These are delicious eating peaches. I couldn't keep Prepper A out of them. In fact, the next day, our friend across the street said, "Did you eat a bunch of those peaches, Prepper A?" And she said, "Oh, I ate about 6 of them." He said, "Well, you've got a lot left then, right?" And she said, "No, Mom canned them." And he said, "Hold on." And he went inside and he got another little bag and he came out and he said, "These are for you to eat. Don't let your mom can them." So she laughed. She said, "Yes, sir." And she brought them home. She was excited. She walked in the door. She said, Mr. C said, "Don't can these peaches, that they're for me to eat." So maybe he didn't realize that those peaches were not going to even last a couple of days for her to eat, that they had to be dealt with because they were so ripe. Some of them I have to use a knife a little bit. Those that are less ripe, I have to use a knife to peel the skin away, but it's not difficult, and the same concept applies. Just run the knife all the way around and pry it open gently. There you go. Sometimes just my finger pulling it apart would crush these little sweet peaches. And I second guess myself, that maybe I should have made them into preserves or just puree that I put in the freezer, but I just thought they'd make a delicious little cobbler during the winter, and they are so delicious. I really am kind of glad that he sent some more for us to eat. So in the bottom of that bowl I have a little, Fruit Fresh, or I'll show you the can in a minute, that I use, and periodically as I slice them up, then I'll sprinkle a little more, like right there I would have sprinkled a little more on top. There it is. That's called, that is Fruit Fresh. That's Ball Fruit Fresh. It's kind of granulated citric acid. Here's my boiling water kettle that I just pour over my lids and rings to keep them warm because the boiling water is all that's needed. This is a simple syrup. It's 2 parts water to 1 part sugar, so like 6 parts of water to 3 parts sugar. The heavier the syrup, the more your peaches will float. So I don't want that to happen. I want to try to have a full jar of peaches. So that's kind of a medium type of syrup. I'm going to fill the jars pretty full. I ended up with 3 jars that were pretty full, and then 2 jars that weren't quite full. I just kind of divided what was left. I probably could have pushed them and packed them all into one jar, but they were so delicate I didn't want to put any pressure on them. So here I'm just ladling the syrup over. Usually also I would put the fruit in that syrup for a couple of minutes and then hot pack them in the jars, but I just didn't think these little delicate peaches could hold up to that heat. So I didn't do that. I'm cold packing it. I may get some peaches that float in the jar, but I'm just going to have to deal with that. When you're boiling water bath, when you're going to boiling water bath fruit like this, you want to bring that syrup up to within 1/4 of an inch of the top. You want it pretty high for several reasons. 1, the jar is going to seal better, and 2, if you do have any fruit that floats that comes to the top, you want the syrup as high as you can get it to try to cover those peaches, because even though the jar is sealed, those peaches at the top that are not covered with syrup will darken. Here I'm running the little canning tool around here to release the air bubbles. You want to do that. That will help with keeping them from floating as well. You can see these jars are really full, and that's how you want it when you're doing a boiling water bath. See the bubbles come to the top when I push the fruit aside? Yep. And sometimes you can squeeze a little more in, but I had these pretty full already, so I don't think I'm going to put any more in. That little tool is invaluable. You can use just a plain butter knife, or you can use a skewer. I don't usually like to put metal in my jars, so a little wooden skewer is fine, or even a little plastic knife works well. Okay, and then wipe each rim with a damp paper towel or a clean dish towel. You don't want any of that sticky syrup on there. And then pick up your ring and your lid. I'm trying to do this one-handed, so it's a little awkward. I'm going to set the camera down. I like to I have a warming element on my stove right there, and if I put my lids and rings in that bowl and cover them with boiling water, I can just put that little burner on low and leave it on. I also can up any extra syrup I have. I can use that for lots of things, namely making lemonade, so I don't ever waste that syrup or throw it away. I just can it like I do the peaches. Yeah, I ended up with 5 pints. You can see the ones in the back weren't quite full, so they floated, but these did pretty good. There's not too much syrup at the bottom without peaches in it, so I'm pretty happy. And there's the jarred syrup, and it has a seal on it too. I can put it right on my shelf, mark it simple syrup, and use it for whatever I want. If I want to mix up some lemonade, I've got it. Don't have to worry about the sugar dissolving. Anyway, the peaches came out fine. They're, like I said, they're very delicate. They would not this would not win any blue ribbon at the state fair or even the county fair. They're not particularly beautiful, but you know what? I'm going to take my little ugly peaches, and this jar will fit in a little 8x8 dish, or even smaller probably, and I'm going to put some ugly oatmeal on it, and I'm going to put some ugly brown sugar on it, and I'm going to put some ugly cinnamon on it, and a few little ugly pats of butter, and make the most delicious little peach crumble in the winter. So it doesn't have to be gorgeous to still be delicious and good. These peaches are absolutely yummy, and I consider getting them a blessing, and they're so beautiful sitting on my shelf. I hope that you don't turn down free food either, and that you learn how to can and preserve everything that's given to you and everything you're blessed with. If you have any other questions, you can certainly PM me or leave a comment, and I'll post a link for pickyourown.org, which is an excellent resource if you're wanting to can or preserve food. I'll put that in the notes below. Thank you so much for watching. Cat's Cradle.